Hi, and welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. Today's a Thursday, so the one and only Johnny Litecoin is joining us. I wanted to talk a little bit about privacy and how important that's becoming, especially with these threats where UK is threatening to lock up Americans for mean tweets. I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, we'll talk to Johnny about it right after this. Welcome back, Johnny. Things are so crazy, but I'm so glad to see you. It feels like a little sense of common sense in the storm of craziness.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Yeah. I know we missed you last week. I had stuff going on, and you had the girls down the shore.
Down the
So that
shores,
was
that we
fun.
say in Jersey, at the
Yeah, if
boardwalk.
anybody says they go to the beach in Jersey, they're lying to you.
Or an
Because
outside. Go to the beach. Where are
there,
you going? Where are you going? And
I love
apparently,
it.
I think Jersey's one of the only spots probably that has like boardwalks like they have there. Like that's not normal in other.
Probably. I don't think I've seen. Well, maybe just San Francisco or one of those. They have piers, right? But not a
Here's the
boardwalk.
boardwalk's like a carnival at the beach. That's how you describe it.
Oh, I didn't realize it was all about the rides.
Rides, food, games, all different
Is
types of stuff.
Atlanta like that?
Stores that are selling stuff. So there's probably like
I
a
love Atlanta.
carnival at the beach with more stores and shops that also sell stuff.
Okay.
So it's got something for everybody. It's
Interesting.
got bars for the people of age. It's got rides for the kids. It's got games for the family. It's got food for the hungry.
Every age. All the things. Let's see if my speaker will kick on here. I don't know. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's much better. I was getting a little feedback. Okay, so this great video last night or night before last, Aaron R. Day is his name, and he has a business or organization called Brownstone Institution. And he had our friend I Am for I Am that I do shows with on Monday sometimes, and I also do the WBRT with him and Sean and a bunch of other great people. But they were on and he was talking about anti-CBDC and how important privacy coins are going to be moving forward and really are now. People just don't, we've given so much of our privacy that we're just sheeple. There was a recent giant social security hack. Supposedly they got everyone's social security number in America and all their information, which, the conspiracy people say, well, then that frees us from, our the social security papers that they've been trading us on the market for all these years. I don't know. We'll see if that's a positive thing. But then, like I mentioned in the intro, there's these crazy stories where out of UK they're going to come arrest Americans for mean tweets and just ridiculousness. And so our privacy and anonymity doing transactions. And I saw on your stream, somebody was asking, what restaurants take Litecoin? And you said we've stopped posting it because they were being targeted by 3-letter agencies. And I thought, all this weaponization of regulatory groups, all this against we the people, from doing something as simple as eating out, and choosing how we pay for our dinners and stuff. So that's kind of the direction I wanted to go and talk to people about. Like, it's not, people say, whoa, why do you need privacy? What are you doing wrong? Well, you also don't walk around without your clothes on. Like,
Yeah.
it's nobody's business.
Like I say, you don't walk around your bank statement pasted on your shirt at all times. It shouldn't even be a argument with anybody. It's like, hey, if you don't want privacy, if you don't have the need for it, great, but we want it. You know what I mean? We think it's important. So that's kind of our right. But the problem is the globalist banking cartel doesn't go by the rules, laws of the United States government. They don't care about the Constitution. They're operating on their own standard. So that's kind of where the clash is. You know what I mean? Because we, the people, we say, hey, we have this right to privacy. And they say, you have the right to privacy, but if you don't give over your KYC, AML information and all that, then you're going to jail for money laundering and you could be charged and we're going to seize all your stuff, right? So it's a real battle. It's like, how are they able to, or trying to charge you with a crime and all this stuff or something that's it's in the Constitution. It's your right as an American citizen for privacy. You know what I mean? So it's not, what happened to innocent until proven guilty? We became a country.
Right.
That's not the case anymore. Or check the Patriot Act says, well, everybody's guilty now. So innocent until proven guilty. That hasn't been.
And was it during COVID that they lowered the dollar amount for reporting? I want to say they lowered it.
They lowered the dollar amount if you think about it, when these, I can't even say laws, like regulations came into.
Yeah, they're not laws.
These regulations came into effect. I think money laundering wasn't a crime until the 80s, right? So that they made that a crime, but then around it, they put these regulations, these reporting requirements and all that. Then they said, well, if you don't do that, then you're obviously money laundering. It's like, what happened to, but even with that said, point being, they put the laws in or rules in of a $10,000 threshold, right? Anything over 10,000 has to be reported. Under 10,000 isn't. Well, with all the inflation, which even they admit to inflation. I mean, they admit to some inflation, obviously, right? That's not as high as we say, but they still admit to something. Why is the limit not now 30,000?
Twice as much. Yeah, they're saying that the inflation is, at a minimum 23 to 24%. So, and depending on what you're counting, and then it could be even more than that if you actually count the things they used to.
Let's even go to their statistics. I want to pull up a CPI inflation calculator, right?
Oh, Lord.
Let's see that. January 1985. All right, what did I say? $10,000.
Yeah.
Is now.
And I had heard that during COVID it went down.
14. So almost triple that they're admitting to. Almost triple. So why is the limit not at least double? Why are they making the limit lower?
Yes.
So you're saying, okay, you rolled something out that was controversial in the first place, and now you're making it 10 times more strict. It's like you give them an inch, they take a mile. So
for sure. Yeah. No, it's crazy. I had heard that it was as low as, well, I guess the eBay, and there were some platforms that were requiring reporting after as little as $600 of income. But I guess that's different than the banks seeing transactions go through. And I had heard that was around 6,000. Like they weren't telling you that they lowered it, but because it was always like, oh, here we have to fill out paperwork at 10,000, but then they go ahead and report you if it's 6,000 or something.
Right. Well, then they started a thing, the banks, where they said, okay, transactions under $10,000 now, if you're suspicious for any reason, we want you to fill out what's called a SARS report. And then they're telling the employees of the bank, hey, you're not filling out enough SARS reports. And they got to just pick, I guess this person seems suspicious today. Let's send in a SARS report about them.
That's completely insane.
Yeah. I think that stands for like suspicious activity reporting something.
Summary or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So crazy. I also wanted to hit on, and I just think this is total fear porn, but not that I'm not accusing Randy of fear porn, but think the report or the announcement about it is to try to scare people. Um, she
See, with the
put,
political
oh,
realm of crypto, well, you might be sure. This breaking news report is brought to you by Gemini. According to reports from the Washington Reporter and The Block, multiple Senate staffers are letting people know that Gary Gensler, the anti-crypto head of the Securities and Exchange Commission, if Kamala Harris wins that November election, could be nominated as Treasury Secretary. The Treasury Secretary is known to be the chief financial officer of the country. Is this going to be beneficial? Do you think Kamala Harris would actually nominate Gary Gensler? Make sure you smash a like, comment.
Anyway, I think it's laughable. I think it's just to freak everybody out. But I'd love to know your thoughts on old Gary being the treasurer.
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out if for some reason it was Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't rule it out. Like I said, I don't think it's gonna be her. So
Right. We're not going to even get there.
We're not even gonna get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it was her for some reason, I wouldn't rule it out that it would be Gensler. Why he hasn't been fired yet? You know what I mean? So obviously
I think he was put there to take the fall for his role in the Russia, because he wrote the checks for the Hillary campaign. He was their treasurer, wrote the checks for the Hillary campaign to do all that spying on and do the whole Steele dossier, the whole thing. And so it would make sense that he's when we have the largest crash, when we end this corrupt system of the U.S. dollar that was an experiment for over 100 years now. I think that's his penance is to wear that. Because there's an article I read when I was doing research on him years ago, and he was saying, look, we're already in a digital system. He was calling US dollars and stock markets and all that digital back then. The physical paper is not, I can't remember the number, but it's like, there's like a third or less. I don't know. It's a very small amount of actual physical money versus what is supposed to be in our US dollar money system or whatever.
Right.
It's majority is digital.
Majority is digital. If there is this crash that occurs and the system blows apart on his watch, then he's obviously toast. And then he is really, you know what I mean? But if for some reason that got delayed for whatever reason, and for whatever reason it was her, then I could see him being a pick. But more likely it would be maybe like Powell. I don't know. He's maybe moving. A lot of times they move these people from the Fed to the Treasury, right?
Right. Yeah. They're all kissing cousins or something.
Exactly.
Crazy. Which is more reason for, something like Litecoin where you can have an option for privacy. Because if we're in, and we are in, wake up everybody, we are under a tyrannical reign of government right now. And you need to figure out parallel systems to hold your assets in your own possession.
It's like there's so many good factors of Litecoin or even Bitcoin, but Litecoin obviously has better factors because of the ability to use it and all that. But it's something that's scarce. It's completely inelastic. You know how much is going to be created every day. No matter how much demand comes in, there's that much created every day. And it's easy to transfer around. So it gives you the ability to preserve value, gain value, and do it in a private manner, where everything else that's digital, you're doing it under the watch of whatever custodian or gatekeeper that says, now be a good little government slave and shut up. And, you might make just pray that you make a lot of money so you could,
so that you can report it all and pay it to them, and then when you go spend it, you're going to pay it again, and then when you send it to someone, and then when you die, they take even more. So yeah, it never ends.
and so they could
It's
just track
insane.
whatever you do too. You know what I mean? So they can see, like, build a, by your behaviors and stuff. It's such
Yes.
like a,
Okay, so you're the first one to tell me this. This was years ago when we first started doing the show, and you said that credit card companies have been selling our data to people for years, and most people don't know that. They think that if they're going and buying something, but now the privacy disclosure statements, which we all click on them. I think Aaron was saying that we click on, like, I can't remember the number, if it was like it was either 450 or 150 a year or something like that, crazy amount. But no one reads them, just like a congressional bill, because they're so voluminous that
yeah,
there's no way you could possibly, and there's written by lawyers, and all the
sure.
magic words speak. And so to ask people that, are they really submitting? Are they really complying? No, they're just using your platform and they're skipping over. There was
That's a
some,
great point. They're,
well, someone at Disney, this, for example, someone at Disney passed away from a food allergy thing, and Disney is telling them they cannot sue them because they have Disney Plus at their house, and that they signed a waiver when they downloaded Disney Plus, it freed them from any wrongdoing.
what is like,
That's insane.
it's insane. It's insane. That's unfortunately, that's the way that America went. It used to be about good service, good value, good people. Then it became, hey, be the most compliant, the best legal staff we can give, so we can give you the worst possible service. And if you try to complain about it, we'll sue the pants off you or whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the free market is just completely dead. And I do see that parallel of, like, our freedom being associated with the free market and how that has been stifled. I mean, when we're not able to promote a business because they take Litecoin, which is a private transaction between two people, uh, over food, and they're going to get in trouble. I mean, who
Sure.
cares if I say, "Look, I got this nice mug, and would you give me a sandwich?" Why is anyone in trouble for that? That's
There was,
insane.
when we were putting out those crypto ATMs, the people's like bank, like, would go in there, like, the rep from the bank and be like, you have to get the Bitcoin ATM out of here. We're going to close down your bank account. Like, it should be none of their business. Like, that's also too, like, the people that are like going in there doing that, like, it's pretty lousy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, fucking loser. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
no, I'm with you.
like, do your
And
job or whatever, but when it comes to that,
what
I
kind of a
didn't,
power
I didn't
trip
see it.
too. Yeah. I mean, what kind
Yeah.
of a power trip that they would walk into someone's business and tell them they couldn't have a Bitcoin ATM because you bank with them. Wait, you work for me,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Um, every time I put money in your bank, you loan it out 9 times. Shouldn't you be encouraging my business to do well? I don't know. It's just the whole world is so upside down.
It's upside down. So that's what we're up against. And that's who I call the banking industrial complex. And to me, they're the most powerful of them all, because the other people, like, yeah, they suck, but it's like, medical industrial complex. Okay, you could try to avoid them as much as you can, right? And can ignore
Yeah.
them, live a healthy lifestyle. Like the other, they say the military industrial complex. All right, but the banking industrial complex, they impact every one of our lives, like every
Yeah.
minute of every day. It's like, we'll make it so your card doesn't work, you have no bank account, and you can't, you know what I mean? Can't pay your bills.
Well, the guys on this morning on WBRT were saying that, really we've lived in a social scoring world for a long time because so many people, like, if you don't have the right FICO score, you can't rent a house. Like when I
Sure.
was
Yeah.
single, even though I owned a business with my ex for 20 years, but they said, "Oh no, but you've been staying at home." And that, not that I didn't own the business too, but because I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years, I didn't have income history, so I didn't have enough credit to rent. I had to write this lady a letter, and she, like, felt sorry for me and let me rent a house, but it was insane. They were like, "Oh, no, you have to be, like, to show your credit." The whole world is insane,
It's
and so we are already in a social scoring kind
oh
of.
sure. When they say we're not, I'm like, what's this? What's the FICO score nonsense and all that? You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Of course we are. So it's a yeah, but everything's coming to a head, like you're saying. There's definitely like everything's coming to a head. So what happens and then what comes next, I guess, is the big big question.
Y
There's so many different
Yeah.
variations of what could happen, how it could play out. I feel like in anything in life, one little change of events changes the course of history. So everything
Mhm.
will affect the next thing that happens and the next thing that happens. So it's crazy to feel like a lot of times we can predict things or events, but then things that get tweaked ever so slightly and it changes the course. And then it's like, well, you guys said this. It's like, yeah, but then this, and this happened and it changed the
Right, they're predicting what the Fed's gonna do, but then the Fed actually doesn't, and so that changes everything. I know we were talking right before the show about, your ideas about, like, inflation and how that might affect the housing market, and, well, what happens if we do have a crash, but, what were you saying? Something about, like, then they do the airdrop money and whatever. Go ahead
so
and
I was
share
calling
those
it
thoughts.
so you brought up stagflation. And
Yes.
I said, I don't think we'll have stagflation because we'll have what they call a deflationary spike event. And because right now I feel like the Fed and all that, they have too much control of the markets. I mean, they send that guy Powell out to speak, they parade him out, and they
Yeah.
move the market whatever direction that they want. So I feel like we'll have this deflationary spike event, which is a crash in all markets, right? And markets will probably close. Maybe the crash will be so bloody that people say, "Oh, the market's going to close." Easy, they already close them. They close it during if the stock market falls a certain amount. They say the
Yeah.
circuits are kicking in and it closes, right? They
Mhm.
they already do it. What's to stop them from if shit gets too bad, right? What's to stop them from closing the markets for a couple weeks? Then that's the
Right.
situation we talk about that what's the price of an asset when the markets are closed? You know what I mean? It's whatever I guess someone's willing to pay for it at that point in time.
Right, then it goes to need and use case. Then need and want become very, delineated, I would think, at that point, because people will be like, I mean, I would be worried about letting go of an asset if the markets were closed, because how do you really know the true value of it, except that it is that peer-to-peer exchange. So, I would think that it would be down to, need and not wants during that time.
See, crypto's interesting because there's all these decentralized exchanges. There's also even they try to shut every market down. There's still decentralized crypto exchanges
Mm,
that'll be open. So that'll be interesting where they take everything down, but that'll be the situation. That'll be Litecoin or crypto's time to shine because if they take everything down, it's like, well, we can still trade crypto peer to peer. We need this to
right.
do this. We can still go in and get it. Coinbase might be down, or whatever Binance might be down, or whatever. But this DEX or that DEX or this swap service is open because it's just swapping peer to peer.
Mhm.
And that'll be a real interesting time. And what's the curious thing will be how long do they keep the markets shut down for?
Okay.
And what do they try to do to manipulate everybody? Because say there's such a, like, Bix talks about the derivative bomb goes off and it just takes
Mhm.
everything out, right? Well, most people don't understand even what that means or anything. So they could just come on TV and tell them anything pretty much. And then it's, you know what I mean? They can.
Right. They don't even, yeah, they don't
So
understand
that's the
how our
plan.
money works. I mean, if the bonds come flying back from Japan, like Jim Willie's saying, and everywhere else all over the world, like that's a game changer. There's so many pieces that could really turn this ship very quickly, I think. I was trying to think, I can't remember. Oh, Operation Sandman. I had heard from Gene Decode that when BRICS reaches 50 nations, that they would kick off Operation Sandman, which would basically like de-dollarize the world. It would, destroy the US dollar. And Andy has been on my show and talked about that before. And that would cause like a dramatic rise in silver, precious metals, assets, things like that, hard assets in your possession. And I last heard that BRICS was at like 47 or 48 countries. So if that's true, we're right there.
Maybe it takes out the Fed note as we know it, the dollars.
Right. That's what I mean. The US dollar. Sorry, not the constitutional dollar.
And I think that there'll be a lot of synthetic representations of the dollar, not CBDCs, but stable coins like Tether, like USDC, and these other PayPal as a stable coin. So these other stable coins will keep arising. And I think there'll still be a big need for those, and those will be highly used. But maybe international trade, the BRICS
It's still highly manipulated, right? The stable coins are still based on those centralized works. I mean, Tether could print up however many Tether they want. That's not
right,
a representation of true value.
Sure, it's not, but it's still, you still transfer it and the recipient gets $1. So that's the benefit. There's no explaining it. Hey, I'm going to send you this coin. You get $1, and then you can do whatever you need with it where you're at. It's like getting US dollars. You know what I mean? So there'll be other things that arise. Who knows how they're manifested out there, what blockchains they're on top of, what's backing them. Maybe nothing's backing them. Who knows? And it's just the value of that system. But and then it's all, then a system like that, that's all fake. I mean, we're obviously on fake money now, but that's like,
right.
That's fake money on top of fake money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's total chaos.
But then if there's a treasury dollar, then there could be synthetic representations of that moving around. And then say there's a treasury dollar backed again by silver, right? And I want to send you $20. And that $20 is
but the only way that we trust that is
$1,000 in spending power, right?
Okay.
But maybe I transfer you a digital coin that represents that. Maybe that blockchain isn't a government blockchain. Maybe it's on the Litecoin network. Maybe you use MWeb, but you're transferring around treasury dollar on Litecoin network, whatever thing they came up with, that, and it moves around in the light. So then that way, if you want to get a treasury dollar, it's convertible dollar for dollar into a treasury dollar. Its representation is not a Fed note. It's of a treasury dollar. And I feel like
a wrapped treasury dollar.
Probably, and how I think we could think of this, I see two parallel systems moving forward. I see a Fed note system that people still use because that's what they got, a treasury dollar system, and it's almost like in crypto where there are different networks or different blockchains. That's its own thing. The Fed note's its own thing. They're both convertible for each other, but that treasury dollar just has a lot more value until that Fed note dies off. Because then people are going to say, well, wait a second, why am I getting paid in that Fed note? I want you to pay me in this other dollar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that happening for sure. Oh man. Well, we have a lot ahead of us. And not much time to go. I do think that this whole thing, I don't think we'll get to the election. And so what do you have to say?
One other
Okay.
comment on that, Lisa. You know how I've always talked about if they did do a CBDC that people wouldn't realize because they would just connect it to a Visa card.
Hmm.
There's something out there. You probably know what it is. It's called Apple Cash,
Yeah.
where it's in the iPhones and you send
Hmm.
money around. So Natalie's been hitting me up for it so she can go to Burger King or wherever with her friends and tap her phone. And she actually prefers that over if I say, hey, do you want me to give you $10? She'd rather have Apple Cash because she's pulling out her phone. Cool.
That's the majority of kids now. Cannon wants V-Bucks so he can play Fortnite. My other kids say just cash app me,
Yep.
or they cash app us if they watch a movie on our account or whatever, they don't have money anymore. Money only exists in banks that can be manipulated. Do you think the Social Security hack will affect bank accounts, or because people could have their credit stolen, is my understanding, and like we're saying about the scoring.
People's credit's already been stolen, so this stuff's already been out there. So I don't. The system of our Social Security numbers and all that. That's that whole synthetic identity theft thing that I've always talked about. How that plagues the system.
Okay.
And that's something that they don't talk about because if people knew about that, they would freak out and they'd have a real panic in the banking system. If people knew how bad that was, so they'll just do it. It'll just be business as usual. And that's just is what it is. Maybe we'll see this happen at a more alarming rate or a higher rate, but it's just all papered over and manipulated. And so I don't see that having an impact. But what I was saying with that Apple Cash, so I was thinking to myself, well, how does it work? How is she tapping her phone at the point of sale at Burger King in these places, right?
Mm-hmm.
It connects to a Visa card. That told me everything I need to know. That I've always said that's the railway for all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like something else magically is going to appear because nothing's in these systems besides for like Visa.
Just transactions, digital transactions, because Visa and MasterCard are not the bank. They're a railway it's a messaging service, right?
It's a messaging service, and then it'll all funnel down. I feel like it'll all funnel down to that, and then it's a way that could be the good guys or bad guys can use that. And I guess that's kind of the free market, I guess, in theory, allows the good guys and bad guys to use it because the bad guys can use it to trick us. Then you don't know you're using a CBDC because it just looks like Visa and you tap your phone and they'll trick kids. They'll have some of these music people that kids think are cool promoting it, and they'll do TikTok videos about it. So they'll trick all the kids into wanting to use it, right? But then the good guys can also use it for a good currency. Then something like Litecoin or something like a treasury dollar in the future, well, that can also be linked to Visa, a Visa card, and just a tap to pay thing. So you're paying with that, and it has good sound backing, and it's easy. There's no learning curve on it because the people already use Visa, and you don't have to worry about teaching everybody how to use it. Can easily be adopted. Then that's the good guys taking advantage of it. So I feel like it's just it's always a battle, good versus evil. Right? What'd you say, Lisa?
Anytime, with KYC, anytime you have a Visa card that's not private, because you would have the KYC issue and them sharing your data and all of that, right?
That's the thing with that's why Visa is Visa. But then if you take peer-to-peer crypto, then you're taking it as a currency in and of itself. You're taking it as cash. So I could say, hey, I'll pay with Litecoin on the Visa rails, right?
Okay.
Or I'll send you raw Litecoin. Which one do you want? And which one do you prefer that I send?
Mm.
And then
I would
maybe
choose peer-to-peer.
or same thing with a treasury dollar. Maybe you send that peer to peer. If there's no more cash, then that treasury dollar would be cash. Then if you're not doing it on the Visa rail, then you do it peer to peer. But
Interesting.
ultimately,
Okay.
these fees are just built into everything. So it's kind of like the businesses don't care because then they're like, well, we're just passing it to the consumer anyways if they want to pay it.
Right.
But people are starting to notice that and complain because the people notice, hey, if I pay with a credit card, I'm going to pay 3 or 4% more than if I pay with cash. So
Right.
already that's a popular thing. So that does put some public spotlight on it.
Yeah, I think that has, always the fee hasn't really changed, but I don't know if it's because of the economy or what, but I see that everywhere now. Like there's a cash price, even at gas stations, there's a cash price and then a credit card
It's
price.
the biggest trend that's the business I'm in, of these POS
Right.
systems and credit card terminals and all that. So most people say, hey, we don't want to pay the fees anymore. We were paying. Now think about this, Lisa. Say you're a business that operates on a low profit margin and you do
Mhm.
100,000 in sales, but you're on a low profit margin. Say it's 10% profit margin, right? So
Mhm.
that's 10 grand a month profit. Well, if you take $100,000 in through credit card processing, your fees are about $3,000 a month on average.
My gosh. Yeah.
So
A
you're
third
making
of your income.
10,000 and you're paying 3,000 in credit card fees. Now, if you say, hey, I'm going to just pass that, if people want to pay with Visa, they can pay the fee. Now, all of a sudden, you're making a third more money. That's a big difference. So that's
huge.
definitely the trend
Well, and with inflation, that it's larger amounts of money because when you're talking about percentages, that grows. And so it could be a significant amount.
I mean, I've seen people's fees, like merchant statements, processing statements, where the fees for 1 month are $20,000-$30,000 in just payment
That's
processing
incredible.
fees in 1 month just to accept payments.
My gosh, that is incredible. We are so dependent on this broken system, but I think it's going to get painful and we might choose something else. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just good to have options because say even a $10,000 payment through certain payment forms, it could be cost $300 to take that payment. Now, if you send Litecoin for a penny, there's no fee. But that's where the whole all these stable coins come into play, because then people say, well, Litecoin's volatile, even though the dollar's volatile, but it's just they don't understand that,
They don't see it and feel it. Yeah. So that does lend to, I guess I really could see like multiple pathways, and like you said, systems existing together, and people choosing. Do you want to be? How much of a slave do you want to be when you're transacting? It's up to you.
Yeah. And obviously, if
Alright.
currency is backed by silver, the thing is, a lot of people still use that old system. It's what they know. But people that kind of think about things would use the system of the sound money because their money is growing in value. You know what I mean?
But
So
wouldn't it have to be a way that's transparent to people for them to really trust it? Like, it would have to be like I've talked with Bix about, the silver really being audited, not like they did back in the 50s or whatever, but like truly being on a blockchain for transparent for people to see. They'd have to be able to right? Or do they just not care?
well, I think as long as you could redeem your currency for
Physical.
physical silver, I think as long as you could get, say you have a treasury dollar coin, as long as you can go to a bank or it's not a bank that we know it today, but whatever it is, maybe like Bix talks about, maybe the post office, who knows, right? But if they give you that silver dollar, then you really don't need it to be on a block. You might have, maybe it's on a, like the digital coins on a blockchain, but as far as tracking where the silver is, I think that's got to be at that point in time. Can you redeem it for the silver? And that's, forget the tracking. They could say, they can show you AI and say, yeah, there's the silver right there.
Sure, that's a
You
good
can pet
point.
it all day
Yeah.
in your brain. Doesn't it look pretty? And
Yeah, does that make you feel better? Yeah.
That make you feel better?
That's funny that you mentioned that about the post office. So they put in new terminals at our post office for payment, and they now ask you if you want cash back. I have never ever been asked if I want cash back at the post office, and I'm like, they're ready to be a bank. I don't know.
It's
Maybe it's going that way.
possible, or maybe they look. Maybe the banks now that we know it are Federal Reserve member banks, and you got to realize something. They'll always be able to pay interest because as there's more inflation, say the interest rates go back up in that system, then they'll always pay interest. A treasury dollar system backed by silver, money is issued out debt-free. There's no interest in that system.
Okay.
So the slaves are going to say, well, I want the interest. That's better than this system that pays nothing. Silver, who wants that? What is that stuff, right? So they might not realize, like, well, the purchasing power of that system, but over time they would. Say in the beginning the exchange rate was what it is now. Say it was 30 to 1. Say one treasury dollar is an ounce of silver, and that's 30 Fed notes, right?
Okay.
Well, I think if you have a system that really incorporates physical back, you're obviously going to see a clear, the price is going to move at that point in time because you're in Fed notes. You know what I mean?
That makes the price more transparent.
A treasury dollar is a dollar, but the purchasing power in Fed notes, 40, 50, 100, 200, it'll just go exponential. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah.
No,
that makes a lot of sense.
But then what they'll do to trick people that are using that Fed note system, they'll have it all digital. So they won't really, because the other system is silver dollars and a digital representation of it. So their mind's not going to connect the dots in that Fed note system that, hey, now all of a sudden it's 200 Fed notes to get one of those. They're not really, because if they're going to have it where it's all digital, they'll mess with the decimal point. They'll manipulate people's minds where then they might be converting memes. Like they don't even show the numbers. I'm serious. They could trick people. You're converting whatever memes or whatever they do to manipulate people so they don't really understand the numbers behind it. And
they can't feel the weight of it or the value of it. Yeah.
The slow bleed, because some people realize it, but it's like, if it's 30 this year and then it's 40 the next year, they're feeling it, but it's not, they're still getting their 6% interest or whatever. They're good, right? Next year,
look at what eggs went to $9 or something, 3 times what they normally are. And people still buy them and just think it's part of, the cost of doing life.
The good eggs are so much more expensive. See, I try to buy good eggs. So I try to buy organic. Well, I always buy organic. Then I try to buy cage-free. Mm-hmm. Then you try to buy, if you can, pasture-raised. So if you buy pasture-raised eggs, the yolk on them so bright. You can tell you're eating something different, right? Yeah. But if you just buy like the lowest grade eggs, not organic, not cage-free, then they're still putting them out as relatively cheap because it's like they're basically even like that's like the whole food, the war against us from food because they're just making food. Real food exists. It's just that it costs a lot more money. So then the cheap options are what people buy, and then they're making us sicker because it's like that's all people can afford.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But Sean was talking about how the bread baskets of the world are being attacked, and you know, when we watched all of these places here in the US, you know, whether it was big things of cows dying or processing plants getting burned up. But I kind of think that's them getting rid of like the evil food, but we'll see. We will see. We will see. Well, thanks for joining me. I love talking about privacy and the options that it gives you for anonymity if you choose to, if you want to live in a free market society, all of that. I think we have, you know, we're entitled to all of that. Those are part of our God-given rights. And so
And it's just to have the option of it. It's not forced. That's what I like about Litecoin's MWeb. It's just an optional privacy layer. We should have that option when we want to use it. And it's up to us. It's at our discretion when we choose to use it.
that's right. So use your freedom finger and
Yes.
learn about Litecoin. Ah, you guys take care. Thanks for joining us, everybody in the chat. Please give us a like and share the video. We'll be back with Johnny next week.
Yes, definitely.
Talk more Litecoin. All right. Take
Thanks,
care.
guys.